Good afternoon, Year 6. We are reading Wonder and we are on page 49 and the chapter is called Lunch. Thea had warned me about lunch in middle school, so I guess I should have known it would be hard. I just hadn't expected it to be this hard. Basically, all the kids from all the 5th grade classes poured into the cafeteria at the same time, talking loudly and bumping into one another while they ran to different tables. One of the lunchroom teachers said something about no seat saving allowed, but I don't know what she meant, and maybe no one else did either, because just about everybody was saving seats for their friends. I tried to sit down at one table, but the kid in the next chair said, "Oh, sorry, but somebody else is sitting here." So I moved on to an empty table and just waited for everyone to finish stampeding and the lunchroom teacher to tell us what to do next. As she started telling us the cafeteria rules, I looked around to see where Jack Will was sitting, but I didn't see him on my side of the room. Kids were still coming in as the teacher started calling the first few tables to get their trays and stand at the line in the counter. Julian, Henry and Miles were sitting at the table towards the back of the room. Mum had packed me a cheese sandwich, graham crackers and a juice box, so I didn't need to stand in the line when my table was called. Instead, I just concentrated on opening my packed lunch, pulling out my lunch bag and slowly opening the aluminium foil wrapping up my sandwich. I could tell I was being stared at without even having to look up. I knew that people were nudging each other and watching me out of the corner of their eyes. I thought I'd used to this kind of stares by now, but I guess I wasn't. There was one table of girls that I knew were whispering about me because they were talking behind their hands. Their eyes and whispers kept bouncing over to me. I hate the way I eat. I know how weird it looks. I had surgery to fix my cleft palate when I was a baby, and then a second cleft surgery when I was 4, but I still have a hole in the roof of my mouth, and even though I have a jaw alignment surgery a few years ago, I have to chew in the front of my mouth. I didn't even realise how this looked until I was at a birthday party once, and one of the kids told the mum at the birthday boy he didn't want to sit next to me because I was too messy with all the food crumbs shooting out my mouth. I knew the kid wasn't trying to be mean, but he got in big trouble later, and his mum called my mum that night to apologise. When I got home from the party, I went to the bathroom mirror and started eating a cracker to see what it looked like when I was chewing. The kid was right. I looked like a tortoise. If you ever seen a tortoise eating, like some prehistoric swamp thing, so because he can't eat at the back of his mouth, he has to eat at the front. So when he eats, he'd be like at the beginning. The summer table. "Hey, is this seat taken?" I looked up and a girl I'd never seen before was standing across from the table with a lunch tray full of food. She had long wavy brown hair and wore a brown t-shirt with a purple peace sign on the front. No, I said. She put her lunch tray on the table and plopped her backpack on the floor and sat down across from me. She started to eat the mac and cheese on her plate. She said, after swallowing the first bite. "I should have brought a sandwich like you did." "Yeah," I said, nodding. "My name's Summer, by the way. What's yours?" "August." "Cool. Summer," another girl came over to the table carrying a tray. "Why are you sitting here? Come back to the table." "It was too crowded," Summer answered her. "Come sit here, there's more room." The other girl looked confused for a second. I realised she'd been one of the girls I'd caught looking at me just a few minutes earlier, hand capped over her mouth, whispering. I guess Summer had been one of the girls at the table too. "Never mind," said the girl, leaving. Summer looked at me and shrugged and smiled, and took another bite of her mac and cheese. "Hey, our names kind of match," she said as she chewed. I guess she could tell I didn't know what she meant. "Summer and August," she said, smiling, her eyes open wide as she waited for me to get it. "Oh, yeah," I said after a second. "We can make this the summer-only lunch table," she said. "Only kids with summer names can sit here. Let's see, is there anyone else? June or July?" "There's a Mayer." "Technically, May is spring, but if she wanted to sit here, we could make an exception," she said, as if she'd actually thought the whole thing through. "There's Julian. That's like the name Julia, which comes from July." I didn't say anything. "There's a kid named Reed in my English class," I said. "Yeah, I know Reed. But how is Reed a summer name?" she asked. "I don't know," I shrugged. "I just picture like a reed of grass being a summer thing." "Yeah, okay," she nodded, pulling out her notebook. "And Miss Petosa could sit here too. Those kind of sound like the word petal, which I think is a summer thing too." "I have her for homeroom," I said. "I have her for maths," she answered, making a face. She started writing the list of names on the second to last page of her notebook. "But who else?" she said. By the end of lunch, we'd come up with a whole list of names of kids and teachers who could sit at our table if they wanted. Most of the names weren't actually summer names, but they were names that had some kind of connection to summer. I even found a way of making Jack Will's name work by pointing out that you could turn his name into a sentence about summer, like, "Jack will go to the beach," which Summer agreed worked fine. "But if somebody doesn't have a summer name and wants to sit with us," she said very seriously, "we'll still let them if they're nice, okay?" "Okay, even if it's a winter name." "Cool beans," she answered, giving me a thumbs up. Summer looked like her name. She had a tan and her eyes were green like a leaf. 1 to 10. Mum always had this habit of asking me how something felt on a scale of 1 to 10. It started after I had my jaw surgery, when I couldn't talk because my mouth was wired shut. They had taken a piece of bone from my hip bone to insert into my chin to make it look more normal. So I was hurting in a lot of different places. Mum would point to one of my bandages and I would hold up my fingers to show her how much it was hurting. 1 meant a little bit, 10 meant so much. Then she would tell the doctor when he made his rounds what needed adjusting or things like that. Mum got very good at reading my mind sometimes. After that, we got into a habit of doing that 1 to 10 scale for anything that hurt. Like if I had a plain old sore throat, she'd ask 1 to 10 and I'd say 3 or whatever it was. When school was over, I went outside to meet Mum, who was waiting for me at the front of the entrance like all the other parents or babysitters. The first thing she said after hugging me was, "So, how was it, 1 to 10? 5, I said, shrugging, which I could tell totally surprised her. "Wow," she said quietly. "That's even better than I hoped for." "Are we picking up Via too? Miranda's mother's picking her up today. Do you want me to carry your backpack, sweetness?" She had started walking through the crowd of kids and parents, most of whom were noticing me, secretly pointing me out to each other. "I'm fine," I said. "It looks too heavy, Oggy." She started to take it from me. "Mum," I said, pulling my backpack away from her. I walked in front of her through the crowd. "See you tomorrow, August." It was Summer. She was walking in the opposite direction. "Bye, Summer," I said, waving at her. As soon as we crossed the street and were away from the crowd, Mum said, "Who was that, Augie?" "Summer." "Is she in your class?" "I have lots of classes." "Is she in any of your classes?" Mum said. "Nope." Mum waited for me to say something else, but I just didn't feel like talking. "So it went okay," said Mum. I could tell she had a million questions she wanted to ask me. "Everyone was nice. Did you like your teachers?" "Yeah." "How about those kids you met last week? Were they nice?" Fine. Jack hung out with me a little." "That's so great, sweetie. What about that boy Julian?" I thought about the Darth Sidious comment. By now it felt like that had happened 100 years ago. "He was okay," I said. "And the blonde girl, what was her name?" "Charlotte, Mum. I said everyone was nice already." "Okay," Mum answered. I honestly don't know why I get kind of mad at Mum, but I was. She crossed the avenue. She didn't say anything else until we turned into our block. "So," Mum said, "how did you meet Summer, if she wasn't in any of your classes?" "We sat together at lunch," I said. I had started kicking a rock between my feet like it was a soccer ball, chasing it back and forth across the sidewalk. "She seems very nice." "Yeah, she is." "She was very pretty too," Mum said. "Yeah, I know," I answered. "We're kind of like Beauty and the Beast." I didn't wait to see Mum's reaction. I just started running down the sidewalk after the rock, which I had kicked as hard as I could in front of me. Padawan. That night, I cut off the little braid at the back of my head. Dad noticed first. "Oh, good," he said. "I never liked that thing." Via couldn't believe I'd cut it off. "That took you years to grow," she said, almost like she was angry. "Why did you cut it off?" "Don't know," I answered. "Did someone make fun of it?" "No." "Did you tell Christopher you were cutting it off?" "We're not even friends anymore." That's not true. "I can't believe you would just cut it off like that," she added snottily, and then practically slammed my bedroom door shut as if she left the room. I was snuggling with Daisy on my bed when Dad came to tuck me in later. He scooched Daisy over gently and laid down next to me on the blanket. "So, Oogie Doogie," he said, was it really an okay day?" He got that from an old cartoon about a dachshund named Oogie Doogie, by the way. He'd brought me one on eBay when I was about 4, and we watched it a lot for a while, especially in the hospital. He would call me Oogie Doogie, and I would call him Dear Old Dad, like the puppy called the dachshund Dad on the show. "Yeah, it was totally okay," I said, nodding. "You've been quiet all night, that's all." "I guess I'm tired." "It was a long day, huh?" I nodded. "But it was really okay?" I nodded again. He didn't say anything, so after a few seconds I said, "It was better than okay, actually." "That's great to hear, Oogie," he said quietly, kissing my forehead. "So it looks like it'll be good call Mum made. You're going to school?" "Yeah, I could stop going if I wanted to though, right?" "That was the deal, yes," he answered. "Though I guess it would depend on why you wanted to stop going too, you know. You'd have to let us know. We'd have to talk to us and tell us how you were feeling and if anything bad happened, okay? You promise that you'll tell us though, yeah?" "Yeah." "So, can I ask you something? Are you mad at Mum or something? You've been kind of huffy with her all night long. You know, Oogie, I'm as much to blame for sending you to school as she is." "No, she's more to blame. It was definitely her idea." Mum knocked on the door just then and peeked her head inside my room. "Just wanted to say goodnight," she said. She kind of looked shy for a second. "Hi, Mama," Dad said, picking up my hand and waving it at her. "I heard you cut off your braid," Mum said to me, sitting down on the edge of my bed next to Daisy. "It's not a big deal," I answered quickly. "Didn't say it was," said Mum. Why don't you put Uggy to bed tonight? Dad said to Mum, getting up. I've got some work to do anyway. Good night, my son, my son. That was another part of the Uggy Duggy routine, though I wasn't in the mood to say good night, dear old Dad. I'm so proud of you, said Dad, and then he got up and he left the room. Mum and Dad had always taken turns putting me to bed, and I knew it was a little babyish of me to still need them to do that, but that's just how it was. Will you check in on Via? Mum said to Dad as she lay down next to me. He stopped by the door and turned around. What's wrong with Via? Nothing, said Mum, shrugging. At least that she'll tell me. But, first day of high school and all that. Said Dad. Then he pointed his finger at me and winked. It's always something with these kids, isn't it? He said. Never a dull moment, said Mum. Never a dull moment, Dad repeated. Good night, guys. As soon as he closed the door, Mum pulled out the book she'd been reading to me for the last couple of weeks. I was relieved because I really was afraid that she'd want to talk, and I just didn't feel like doing that. But Mum didn't seem to want to talk either. She just flipped through the pages until she got to where she'd left off. We were about halfway through The Hobbit. Stop, stop, shouted Thorin, said Mum, reading aloud. But it was too late. The excited dwarves had wasted their last arrows, and now the bows that Borin had given them were useless. They were a gloomy party that night, and the gloom gathered still deeper on them in the following days. They had crossed the enchanted stream, but beyond it the path seemed to struggle on just as before, and in the forest they could see no change. I'm not sure why, but all of a sudden, I just started to cry. Mum put the book down and wrapped her arms around me. She didn't seem surprised that I was crying. It's okay, she whispered in my ear. It'll be okay. I'm sorry, I said, between sniffles. Shh, she said, wiping my tears from with the back of her hand. You have nothing to be sorry about. Why do I have to be so ugly, Mummy? I whispered. No, baby, you're not. I know I am. She kissed me all over my face. She kissed my eyes, then came down too far. She kissed my cheeks that looked punched in. She kissed my toy's mouth. She said soft words that I knew were meant to help me, but words can't change my face. September. The rest of September was hard. I wasn't used to getting up so early in the morning. I wasn't used to this whole notion of homework. And I got my first quiz at the end of the month. I never got quizzes when Mum homeschooled me. I also didn't like how I had no free time anymore, because before I was able to play whenever I wanted to, but now it felt like I always had stuff to do for school. And being at school's awful in the beginning. Every new class I had was a new chance for kids to not stare at me. They would sneak peeks at me from behind their notebooks, or when they thought I wasn't looking, they would take the longest way around me to avoid bumping into me in any way, like I'd gotten some sort of germ that they could catch, like my face was contagious. In the hallways, which were always crowded, my face would always surprise some unsuspecting kid who maybe hadn't heard about me. The kid would make the sound you make when you hold your breath from underwater, like a sound. This happened maybe 4-5 times a day for the first few weeks, on the stairs, in front of the lockers in the library. 500 kids in our school. Eventually, every one of them was going to see my face at some point. And I knew after the first couple of days that word had gotten around about me, because every once in a while I'd catch a kid elbowing his friend as I passed, or talking behind their hands as I walked by. I can only imagine what they were saying about me. Actually, I prefer to not even try to imagine. I'm not saying they were doing any kind of things in a mean way. By the way, not once did any kid laugh or make noises or do anything like that. They were just being normal dumb kids. I know that. I kind of wanted to tell them that. Like, it's okay. I know I'm a weird looking. Take a look. I don't bite. Hey, the truth is, if a walkie started going into school all of a sudden, I'd be curious too. I'd probably stare a bit. And if I was walking with Jack or something, I'd probably whisper to them, hey, there's that walkie. And if the walkie caught me saying that, he'd know I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just pointing out a fact that he was a walkie. It took me about 1 week for the kids in my class to get used to my face. They were the kids I'd see every day in all my classes. It took about 2 weeks for the rest of the kids in my grade to get used to my face. These were the kids I'd see in the cafeteria or yard time, PE, music, library, even computer class. It took about a month for the rest of the kids in the entire school to get used to it. These were the kids in all the other grades. They were big kids, some of them. Some of them had some crazy haircuts. Some of them had earrings in their noses. And some of them had pimples. None of them looked like me, though. Jack will. I hung out with Jack in homeroom, English, history, computer, music and science, which were all the classes we had together. The teachers assigned seats in every class, and I ended up sitting next to Jack in every single one. So I figured either the teachers were told to put me and Jack together, or it was a totally incredible coincidence. I walked to classes with Jack too. I knew he noticed the kids staring at me, but he pretended not to notice. One time though, on our way to history, this huge 8th grader who was zooming down the stairs 2 steps at a time accidentally bumped into us at the bottom of the stairs and knocked me down. As the guy helped me stand up, he took a look at my face, and without even meaning to, he just said, "Whoa." Then he patted me on the shoulder like he was dusting me off and took off after his friends. For some reason, me and Jack started cracking up. "That guy made the funniest face," said Jack as we sat down at our desks. "I know, right?" He was like, "Whoa." I swear, I think he wet his pants. We were laughing so hard that the teacher, Mr. Roach, had to ask us to settle down. Later, after we finished reading about how ancient submarines built sundials, Jack whispered, "Do you ever want to beat those kids up?" I shrugged. "I guess I don't know. I'd want to. I think you should get a secret squirt gun or something and attach it to your eyes somehow. And every time someone stares at you, you could squirt them in the face. With some green slime or something," I answered. No, with slug juice mixed with dog pee." "Yes," I said, completely agreeing. "Guys," said Mr. Roach from across the room, "people are still reading." We nodded and looked down at our books. Then Jack whispered, "Are we always going to look this way, August? I mean, can't you get plastic surgery or something?" I smiled and pointed at my face. "Hello, this is after plastic surgery." Jack clapped his hand over his forehead and started laughing hysterically. "Dude, you should sue your doctor," he answered between giggles. This time, the two of us were laughing so much we couldn't stop, even after Mr. Roach came over and made us both switch chairs with the kids next to us. Mr. Brown's October precept. Mr. Brown's precept for October was, "Your deeds are your monuments." He told us that this was written on the tombstone of some Egyptian guy that died thousands of years ago. Since we were just about to start studying ancient Egypt and history, Mr. Brown thought it was a good choice for this precept. Our homework assignment was to write a paragraph about what we thought the precept meant or how we felt about it. This is what I wrote. "This precept means that we should be remembered for the things we do. The things we do are more important than things are. The things we do are the most important things of all. They are more important than what we say or what we look like. The things we do outlast our mortality. The things we do are like monuments that people build to honour heroes after they've died. They're like the pyramids that the Egyptians built to honour the pharaohs, only instead of being made out of stone, they're made out of memories people have of you. That's why your deeds are like your monuments, built with memories instead of with stone." Apples. My birthday is October 10th. I like my birthday. 10-10. It would have been great if I'd have been born exactly at 10:10 in the morning or at night, but I wasn't. I was born just after midnight. I was born just after midnight, but I still think my birthday's pretty cool. I usually have a little party at home, but this year I asked Mum if I could have a big bowling party. Mum was surprised but happy. She asked me who I wanted to ask from my class, and I said everyone in homeroom plus Summer. That's a lot of kids, Oggy. I have to invite everyone because I don't know if don't want anyone to get their feelings hurt if they find out other people are invited and they're not. Is that okay? Okay, Mum agreed. You even want to invite that "what's the deal" kid? Yeah, you can invite Julian, I asked. Geez, Mum, you should forget about that already. I know, you're right. A couple of weeks later, I asked Mum who was coming to my party, and she said Jack, Will, Summer, Reed, both Maxes, and a couple of other kids said they'd be going to try and be there. Like who? Charlotte's mum said Charlotte had a dance recital earlier in the day, but she was going to try and come to the party if time allowed, and Tristan's mum said he might come after his soccer game. So that's it. That's like 5 people. That's more than 5 people, Oggy. I think a lot of people just have plans already. We were in the kitchen and she was cutting one of the apples we had just gotten at the farmer's market into teeny weeny bites so I could eat it. What kind of plans? I asked. I don't know, Oggy. We sent out the invites kind of late. Like, what did they tell you though? What reasons did they give? Everyone gave different reasons, Oggy. She sounded a bit impatient. Really, sweetie, it shouldn't matter what their reasons are. People had plans, that's all. What did Julian give as his reason? I asked. You know, his mum's the only person who didn't RSVP at all. He looked at me. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree there. Does anybody know what that means? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. What that saying means? No? It means that if a child gets their traits from their parents. So in this case, we know that Julian's not very nice to August, and the fact that his mum hasn't said that he was going to go to the party, hasn't RSVP'd, she's saying that his mum is probably the same as Julian. Yeah, that's what it means when the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Okay? I laughed because I thought she was making a joke, but then I realised she wasn't. What does that mean? I asked. Never mind. Now go wash your hands so we can eat. My birthday party turned out to be much smaller than I thought it would be, but it was still great. Jack, Summer, Reed, Tristan and both Maxes came from school, and Christopher came too, all the way from Bridgeport with his parents. And Uncle Ben came, and Aunt Kate and Uncle Poe drove in from Boston, though Tata and Popo were in Florida for the winter. It was fun because all the grown-ups ended up bowling in the lane next to ours, so it really felt like there was lots of people there to celebrate my birthday. I'll read one more chapter, okay? Halloween. At lunch the next day, Summer asked me what I was going for Halloween. Of course, I've been thinking about it since last Halloween, so I knew right away. I'm going as Boba Fett. You know you can wear a costume to school on Halloween, right? No way, really? So long as it's politically correct. What, like no guns and stuff? Exactly. What about blasters? I think blaster is like a gun, Uggy. Oh man, I said, shaking my head. Boba Fett had a blaster. At least we don't have to come like a character in a book anymore. In the lower school, that's what we had to do. Last year, I was the Wicked Witch from the West, from The Wizard of Oz. But that's a movie, not a book. Hello, it was a book first. One of my favourite books in the world, actually. My dad used to read it to me every night in the first grade. When Summer talks, especially when she's excited about something, her eyes squint like she's looking right in the sun. I hardly ever see Summer during the day, since the only class we have together is English. But ever since that first lunch at school, we've sat on the summer table together every day, just the two of us. So, what are you going to do? I asked her. What are you going to be? I asked her. I don't know yet. I know what I'd really want to go as, but I think it might be a bit dorky, you know? Savannah's group isn't into wearing costumes at all. They think they're too old for Halloween. What? That's just dumb. I know, right? I thought you didn't care what those girls think. She shrugged and took a long drink of her milk. So, what dorky thing do you want to dress up as? I asked her, smiling. Promise not to laugh. She raised an eyebrow and her shoulders, embarrassed. I want to be a unicorn. I smiled and looked down at my sandwich. Hey, you promised not to laugh, she laughed. Okie dokie. Well, you're right, that is too dorky. I know. But I had it all planned out. I'd make the head out of paper mache and paint the horn gold and make the mane gold too. It would have been awesome. Okay, then you should do it. Who cares what other people think, right? Maybe what I'll do is I'll just wear it for Halloween parade, she said, snapping her fingers. And I'll just be like a goth girl for school. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'll do. Sounds like a plan, I nodded. Thanks, Uggy. You know, that's what I like best about you. I feel like I can tell you anything. Yeah, I answered, nodding. I gave her a thumbs up sign. Cool beans. So we are finishing on page 70, and it's the chapter called School Pictures. So hopefully you're all following along. Remember, it is on Dojo if you would like to read it on a PDF. And hopefully we will see you all soon. Want to say goodbye?
Bye.